Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific. They call me Chris of the Northwest, and we're going to talk about geocachers and geocaches from here and all around the globe. So while you're watching the same movie in theaters over and over again just to stay cool, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Yeah, you may be cool, but you'll never be Spock leaning on a Riviera cool. However, tonight we are not talking about cool. Well, we are talking about cool places, but not cool. Anyway, we are talking about the geocaching capital of Canada, GeoTour, with our special guest, Joanne, also known as Tupper. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Live audience, I see the chat scrolling as always. We want to hear from you. Give us your thoughts. Tell us what you know about the geocaching capital of Canada or whatever crosses your mind with some hashtags that will come later. But first, we have to bring in our capital capuchin. Some say most of his geocacher logs are redacted for national security. And others say he thinks a shovel is a groundbreaking invention. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Hey. Good to be here. Jim, you are the king of segues. I got to say, that was the smoothest segue this morning, at the beginning of the show here.
Yeah. It was the best one in the last 5 minutes.
Exactly. That's funny. It's always tough, right? So how am I going to transition here?
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Good to be here with my friends. Good to be here. Rip the Band-Aid off, indeed. Good to be here with Joanne. I haven't seen you for a couple of months. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too again.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we jump into talking about the geocaching capital of Canada, GeoTour, and the undoubtedly many questions many of you have, let's first talk about the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. First of all, a thanks to Land Sharks, one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. If you're visiting Vancouver Island this summer, don't forget to plan a visit to the Shark Store, 525 Head Street, Esquimalt, just minutes from downtown Victoria, where you can browse all the products in the store, meet the awesome team, find GC5 Zulu 4 November 2 geocaching news. Over 400 favorite points. But hey, I would be remiss if I didn't also point out our other corporate Denali level sponsor. Do you know who that is? Why, that would be Gold Country Geotourism. Visit exploregoldcountry.com to learn more about the geotours and the region. And don't you ever forget to download the app. Or else. Find it all at exploregoldcountry.com. And folks, hey, if you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, why don't you head on over and click that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com, a website.
Land Monkey.
Yes.
Do you think it's in good taste to threaten our listeners at the start of the show?
I think our listeners would miss it if I didn't do something like that.
Okay. No, I was thinking it was a good idea too. I just, just wanted to know if I was the only one. And speaking of our listeners, folks, thank you so much. We love all of our listeners. Our live listeners are so much fun. If you want to get in on tonight's chat, why don't you use the hashtag capital? If you want to, you can put it all in capitals or just, capital case. Anyway, use the hashtag capital for tonight's show. Of course, you can use the hashtag FATAS to bring up anything you want to talk about in the after show. Could be that movie you're watching over and over and over again. And you can use the twin hashtags podcast baking and podcast drinking to tell us what you're sipping and munching on tonight. And we want to take a moment and say that our thoughts and prayers are with all those that are affected by the numerous wildfires all around the globe, be it on an island, on the mainland, wherever it is. Wildfire struck in my hometown this week. So it's just that time of year, folks. Be cautious, please.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. That's been going Joanne, up in your area, how are things for a fire situation? You guys okay up there?
There's still some fires burning in northern Ontario.
Wow.
And the smoke drifts down. In our specific area here, we're okay.
Good. Glad to hear it. All right. Well, folks, we do have a little bit of news before we jump into our conversation with Joanne. We're grabbing an article from the geocaching.com blog, and they have a little story entitled "Know Before You Go." And what they share here is
somewhere before.
Yeah, I know, right?
Isn't that phrase used somewhere else?
No, this is unique to geocaching.com.
Never mind.
They've registered, trademarked the phrase. So now we have to pay a royalty, but Chris, you can take care of that.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. One of the many things geocachers have in common is a love of getting outdoors and exploring all throughout the year. The natural world can be an unpredictable place, so it's important to be as prepared as possible to ensure you have a great time. And for reminders that they share with us that are probably going to sound familiar to watchers of this show who hear us bang on about these things quite frequently, but make a plan for the time you have. Hashtag trip plan. Check the weather and trail conditions. Grab the right gear. Hashtag 10 essentials or take the essentials. And lastly, they're going to remind us to bring snacks and water. So all good advice.
Mm-hmm. Especially in this heat we've been having.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Hashtag heat dome.
Oh, heat dome.
Yeah.
Is that like a Thunderdome?
Yes.
Okay.
2 go in, only 1 comes out.
Well, as much as that would be fun to talk about, that's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight, we're talking about the geocaching capital of Canada, GeoTour. I know that seems like a mouthful, but we want to welcome to the podcast, Joanne. And thanks for staying up late with us. I know it's not easy. You're joining us from 3 hours in the future. So you're already into tomorrow. So Thank you for letting us know tomorrow is going to happen. We feel better already.
Very good.
Would you have an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself? How'd you first learn about geocaching?
Okay. Well, I first learned about geocaching when my daughter's Girl Guide leader introduced the troop to geocaching, and it seemed like kind of a fun thing to do. So I took my daughter out geocaching and we enjoyed it for a while. That was back in 2009. And then as teenage girls do, they had other interests. And so I ended up geocaching on my own for a while and didn't carry on too much until 2014 when my friend Mary got the idea of the GeoTour and asked if I would get involved. And then I really got drawn back into the game then, 2014.
Very cool. And where's home for you, Joanne? Where are you joining us from?
Yeah, so I live in Wilberforce. We moved up here in 1990 from a suburb of Toronto, and it was supposed to be just temporary at the time. So we moved up in 1990 and just fell in love with the community and the surrounding area. It's really beautiful. I have live in a log house on a beautiful little lake, so it's really nice here.
Wonderful.
I saw the logs in the background, and I'm very jealous.
Yeah,
it's not a green screen; it's a real log house.
It is. Don't be too jealous. I have some staining to do on the outside later this summer, so that's the downside.
Okay.
If anybody asks me, I say build brick, but that's another topic.
Worked for the third little pig, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, which reminds me of one of the geocaches from
It does.
We'll get there. All right. Well, let's talk about the GeoTour, the geocaching capital of Canada GeoTour. We might just call it the GCC GeoTour.
That's what we call it. Sure.
Okay. So which communities is it based in? Like, so what we'd like to get a sense of the rough area it's in, and maybe for our listeners who aren't familiar with Ontario, which by the way is a very big province, approximately how far from Toronto would you say
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah. So the GCC is the municipality of Highlands East. So it's made up of 7 little hamlets: Irondale, Goderham, Tory Hill, Wilberforce, Harcourt, Highland Grove, and Cardiff. And the municipality covers 758 square kilometers, and we have over 70 lakes in the area. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful area. And we're about 3 hours northeast of Toronto, depending on who's driving.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it depends on your mode of transportation.
Yeah.
But I'm always amazed by the size of some of the provinces up there and the regions. It sounds like it's a gorgeous place. I want to come see log cabins now. But other than living up there and enjoying the beautiful, scenery, what prompted the idea to establish the GeoTour in the region?
Well, because we are the geocaching capital of Canada, as soon as the concept of geotours hit our radar, my friend Mary, who's my geocaching partner, she said, well, if we're the capital, we have to have a geotour.
Makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. We have to have a geotour, we have to have geoart, we have to have adventure labs, we have to have it all, or we can't be the capital, right? So she drew me into the plan of starting up the GeoTour, and we had to do some investigation of what's involved in a GeoTour. And when we found out how much it costs, we're like, okay, this has to be something memorable. It's not just going to be a series of boring little caches. We have to make it really great. So that's what we set out to do.
Nice. Now, we have to know, and we hope you're the one to tell us, Joanne, how was the title of the geocaching capital of Canada bestowed upon your region? I've been to BC, and there seems to be a lot of geocaches there.
Yep.
But am I missing something? Am I missing out by not going to the actual geocaching capital of Canada?
Oh, you definitely are. We have the best caches in all of Canada. But this started back in 2010. Again, Mary was instrumental in claiming the title Geocaching Capital of Canada because nobody else had. So we just claimed it. And you know how it is. You fake it till you make it. That's what we did. We weren't particularly special at that time, but we decided that we were going to become the Geocaching Capital of Canada. So we claimed it before we were, but we have since earned it. We've put a lot of work into it. And now a lot of geocachers in their logs will say, yes, you truly are the Geocaching Capital of Canada. I'm not bragging. It's just a fact.
Just a fact. Well, I can't argue with facts.
Right.
I mean, we are on social media right now, so there you go. It's now a fact. No, absolutely wonderful GeoTour, great experience. We were just out there. I think most of the listeners, most of the watchers probably know that Laura and I were just out there this summer, tackled the GeoTour, and we'll talk more about the how-tos as we get on through the show. But I do have to say, Joanne, you were instrumental in our success in completing the GeoTour and the GeoArt, and really appreciate your hospitality as well as the hospitality of the people in the communities. It was a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the GeoTour itself. Maybe let's cover a little bit of how many geocaches it's comprised of, and what kinds of geocaches people might find on the GeoTour.
Sure. We started the GeoTour in May of 2015, and it originally had 100 caches in it. And we went from there in 2017, which was Canada's 150th birthday anniversary. So we decided to increase the GeoTour to 150 caches, which, by the way, is the most you can have. So it won't be increasing any more than this. So in honor of the 150th celebration, we're now at 150 geocaches. And we try to include as many different kinds of caches as we could. Of course, there's traditionals. We also have 3 night caches. We have a virtual cache, a letterbox hybrid, mystery cache, and lots of gadget caches.
Lots of gadget caches, yes.
Yeah.
Joanne, are you telling me this GeoTour has been ongoing for 8 years?
Yes, it has.
Wow, that's incredible.
And all 150 caches are up to par. If maintenance needs done on them, it's done immediately. We don't archive anything or disable anything for any longer than absolutely necessary.
It already sounds amazing. No wonder you claimed the capital, the name. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm trying to grasp how many that. I think the 150 was that sesquicentennial. Did I remember that right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sounds right.
All right. Well, there's all kind of names. We've shortened Geocaching Capital of Canada, GCC, and we throw names about it. And I saw a name, Tupper. Now, it reminds me of 1930s movie with Cosmo Topper, played by Cary Grant. But it's not Topper. This is Tupper, right? Can you tell us who Tupper is? And he probably doesn't drive a car like Cary Grant did. But what does Tupper have to do with the GeoTour?
So Tupper Tea Turtle is the mascot of the GCC. And all the caches that we have are put out in Tupper's name. And Tupper is actually, in reality, myself and Mary. That's our combined geocaching persona. And I think we make a pretty good team. Mary, I wish she could be on here with you, but she first of all, she's shyer and she's probably sleeping. But she has a crazy imagination, a great sense of humor, and if you read the descriptions in the cache pages, if they're funny or well written, that's all her. Like, I do the technical end. I set up the cache pages after she's written wonderful descriptions. So together we make a really good team. And we have a costume for Tupper Tea Turtle, a mascot costume, and it's me that gets to climb into the costume when we have special events.
All right.
Now, I've got to ask, has Tupper Tea Turtle ever met Signal the Frog?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Most definitely. We were at the Giga event in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I have pictures of Signal and Signal and Tupper.
Awesome.
You have to refer to the mascot in it, the mascot's name. You can't refer to it as yourself. It's always Tupper. Tupper has its own personality.
He does.
Now, with these 150 caches that you put out and have maintained so well, how long would you say somebody should plan to be in the area to completely find and enjoy this entire GeoTour? I mean, it covers such a large area.
Yeah, it is a large area. There is a fair bit of driving to get all 150 caches. We like to say, take your time and savor the find. I would much rather you come out a number of times and find 15 caches in a day and really enjoy it. But that's not what happens. A lot of cachers come from quite a distance and plan just a short visit to complete the caching. They get up at first thing in the morning and then doing the night caches in the evening. So you can do the series of caches in 4 days, I would think, if you're a really dedicated cacher. But I know lots of cachers who are enjoying it over the period of the 8 years. They've been coming out, for a holiday every year for a week or so and enjoying a few of the caches on their holidays.
Great. I'm going to grab this question that just came in from UDAC. And the question is, and Joanne, you can answer this one, please. Do you have to find all 150 to earn the souvenir?
To earn the virtual souvenir, yes, you have to find all 150. We do have a reward program that is incremental. We have a certificate that you can get after you find 25 caches. And then when you get 50, you get another sticker on your certificate, and 75, you get another sticker. You get beautiful red ribbon when you find 100 of them that completes the certificate. And then when you find all 150, in addition to the virtual souvenir, we also have a geo coin for you.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.
And Dora Moore said that she took a little bit more of an enjoyable pace. Her group spent 9 days in the area and had a wonderful time.
Good.
It sounds like a good pace.
Yes. All right. Well, while we're talking about completing the caches in the GeoTour, one of the things that I would definitely recommend is people planning ahead. And we've talked about how long it takes and how long you should plan, and we'll talk a little bit more about planning. But one of the key planning things for me on any geocaching outing is making sure I know if I need any particular tools of the trade or tots. Joanne, are there any tots or other related planning that geocachers should do in preparation for attempting the GCC?
Yeah, there's not a lot of tots that are necessary. You don't have to have a boat. You don't have to have a 16-foot ladder. No rock climbing equipment. Just the basic 9-volt battery, a pair of AA batteries. And depending on the time of the year, I would highly recommend a bug jacket. In the spring, we have black flies. And in the summer, we have mosquitoes. Now, if you come in the late fall, it's beautiful scenery with the changing colors of the leaves and that, easier to find them. And the bugs have died down. So a bug jacket, bug spray would be wise. A pair of rubber boots might be helpful. There's a couple of caches that tend to get a little damp. So that some cachers said they just threw off the shoes and went for it.
Nice.
There's one cache that you have the choice of waiting or waiting. In the spring and summer, you have to wade out to it. If you come later in the fall, it's on dry land. You can just walk out to it, depending on the water levels. So I would recommend bringing some swimwear because the caches take you to about 25 beautiful little lakes, and you just might not be able to resist the urge to jump in. Yeah.
Some of those beautiful lakes are hard to resist, whether you have swimwear or not.
For sure.
Now, I've heard that there's an associated geo art as well. Yeah, I think you mentioned that in passing, but can you give us a little more detail about it? Maybe what it's called? How many geocaches comprise the geo art? And is it within the confines or close to the GeoTour caches? Or
Yeah, so our geo art is called the Highlands East Howler. It's in the image of a howling wolf. And there are 99 puzzle caches in the art. That's my partner, Mary. She doesn't want to do anything small. I had a design of a little wolf paw with 50 puzzles in it. She says, oh, no, we've got to do the whole wolf, not just a paw. So I had to plan 99 puzzles instead of 50. And yes, it's right in the center of the GCC. It's basically in Tory Hill. And Mary put a little twist on it as well. She wanted to make it a little more complicated. You don't just solve the puzzles. She wanted to send you on missions throughout the municipality. So there are 6 missions that you need to go on in order to fill out a chart, which helps you decode all of the puzzles. Sounds a little complicated. If you read the cache pages, hopefully it's easy to understand. And if not, happy to help you figure it out. But you go on these missions throughout the municipality. So if you were planning to do the GeoTour and maybe someday down the road do the geo art, get the missions and do them while you're doing the GeoTour, because the missions are all at locations where there's GeoTour caches. Oh,
interesting. Now, am I following this right? The 99 geo art caches are not part of the GeoTour?
Nope, that's another 99 plus the bonus cache that I need to maintain.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's 250 finds.
Yeah,
just to complete the GeoTour and the geo art, but
and then 6 missions.
and 6 missions and some AL stops. Yeah.
So the puzzles. I mean, when you say puzzle, I mean, there's so many different kinds of puzzles. It sounds like these are all a similar kind or theme of puzzle. As you mentioned, a chart
Nope.
to help. Nope, they're all different. Okay.
I tried to make as many different puzzles as I
Okay.
could.
Good to know.
Yep. It's
Well-
a challenge. But Tupper is happy to help. I hear that if you message Tupper with any questions, if you're stuck on anything, he just wants you to have a good time. So he's very helpful.
I have never seen a turtle that isn't helpful.
For sure.
I'll just toss that out there.
I'll just say I encountered a snapping turtle when we were doing the GCC that was not helpful. I'll just put that there.
But
Okay.
delicious.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me of one of the GeoTour caches, speaking of delicious turtles.
Yes.
Oh,
We have an inside knowledge here. Jay and I know all the ins and outs of all these caches now.
Yeah.
well, speaking of inside knowledge, we have Dora Moore who said she got the Geo Art and the GeoTour all in those 9 days, cached from 9 in the morning till dinner time, and had time to spare. So it's 250 caches or more in those 9 days. Wow.
The geo art goes a lot faster because it's in a smaller area, and the caches are, one after another along several roads or trails.
Okay.
They do go a lot faster.
Yeah. There's definitely some density in spots, but it's a drive around. So you
Dare we say Dora Moore reverse engineered the chart by solving the puzzles and using some logic? So she had them solved in advance. The puzzles were all fun.
I didn't solve very many of the puzzles at all. I helped with a couple of them, but everybody knows Laura's our puzzle solver here. But she got almost all of them done without any help. I think there's a couple we reached out to Tupper for a nudge on, but
yeah, and Tupper has to go to his notes because he's not very good. He's not very good at puzzles either.
But it's a wide variety of types of geocaching puzzles. So I would say if someone's thinking about tackling it and maybe they're just a little intimidated by the puzzles, take a look at them. And what would really be helpful is Cully Long's book. There's a lot of the puzzles that aren't like taken out of his book, but follow similar themes. And so it would probably
that was one of my resources when making the puzzles for sure.
There you go.
GSM times 2 points out that turtles are helpful once they come out of their shell.
Right on.
Mr. Turtle was my father.
Oh, now, Joanne, I want to get back to the area. This just amazes me of how large of an area this goes over. You said that the GeoTour stretched across 7 different communities. So what kind of services are available in those communities? Apparently Dora Moore can spend 9 days there quite comfortably, but are there, food, gas, lodging? Is all that available?
For sure. It is a very rural community. There's no big cities here. So, but we do have a number of options for accommodations. On our website, geocachingcapitalofcanada.com, we list 17 options for accommodations. And there's also lots of Airbnbs in the area. There's 5 gas stations throughout the area. There's restaurants in Wilberforce, Harcourt, and Gooderham, and Cardiff. There's grocery stores in 3 of the communities. And if you're visiting on a Friday evening, the Wilberforce Legion has dinner options. So that's another option.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
There is a liquor store in Wilberforce, and there's 3 liquor stores in the area. So, we've got you covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is when you drive out that way, from my experience, Joanne, is that it feels rural. Like you are in, I don't know if it's the Highlands East is what the region's called. I am very ignorant about Ontario geography. So I've always heard people talk about the lake country. And to me, I was thinking, well, boy, this sure feels like lake country because there's like a million lakes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Highlands East is lake country or not, but there's definitely, as you said, so many lakes with little cottages and resorts and some lakes without that around them. But you want to kind of plan to your trip a little bit and use the resources on the website for sure, because it's not like there's 7-Eleven open all night or something like that. So you do have to do a bit of planning.
For sure.
One of the things we found when we did come up and did some shopping in the area and met a handful of local folks, was we had a pretty positive experience. And I'm curious what the response from the local communities has been for yourself with respect to the GeoTour.
Well, we've been working over the years to educate the local residents of what geocaching is. It's amazing how many people still don't quite get it, but we're working on them. COVID was helpful, actually. When people couldn't travel, it's like, well, we got to do something. Well, what is this geocaching? Let's figure that out. We can do this at home here. So people are getting to figure out what geocaching is, and they generally enjoy watching the geocachers trying to find caches. You'll get comments if you're out geocaching with people. Oh, have you found it yet? Or you're in the right area. And same with the local municipal staff. They keep their eyes open for the geocachers as well, and lend assistance when they can, or just some words of encouragement.
All right. Well, we've heard that putting together a GeoTour can also help maybe television celebrities, because the GCC GeoTour was featured on CBC. Can you tell us a little more about what that experience was like, and what the response to the show was up there?
Yeah. So the program Still Standing came to check out Wilberforce, not just the geocaching, but Wilberforce in general. But a segment of the show did feature the geocaching. So that was quite cool to see how the show works behind the scenes. I was not featured on that show, thankfully. But if you
what was Tupper?
Mary was. He was
Okay.
interviewed. So if you get to see an episode of Still Standing, you'll get to see Mary there. While they were here, we had the Still Standing crew create a geocache themselves, and I helped place it in honor of Johnny Harris. Excuse me. So that's one of our celebrity caches. We're working on a series of celebrity caches. So at the moment, it's just 3 in the series, but we're working on it. We have some other celebrities in the wings waiting.
That's awesome. Hey, I got to point out, so most Canadians probably know who Johnny Harris is, but for others who may not know who Johnny Harris is, if you've ever watched the program Murdoch Mysteries, Johnny Harris is the constable. I'm trying to remember his
Crabtree,
Constable Crabtree on that show.
Yes.
He's kind of the comedic sidekick to the straight man of the main character. So just for context, and he's a Newfoundlander, isn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah, he sounds like one anyways.
He definitely did. Yeah. So they put on a great comedy show at the end of their stay here, and it was really well done.
That's cool. Yeah, and yeah, as you say, he's a stand-up comedian as well. So yeah, quite a.
So we get lots of people who said, "Oh, I saw this Wilberforce on Still Standing, so I had to come out and see the caches."
That was how we first found out about the GeoTour, was on Still Standing, and then our friends Dora Moore and her posse went out and did it and told us all about it. So I was like, all right, well, let's put this in the planning books.
And so it was done, and so it was written.
Yes.
Now, okay, so you've got a couple of caches there for famous people, but what about some of the other more memorable or caches that you prefer to highlight on the GeoTour?
That's tough. They're all my favorites. You can't just pick one or two. It's like saying, what's your favorite child?
I clearly have one.
I'm not allowed to say I have a favorite. So there's lots of great caches. Personally, I like Firefighters Kick Ash. It's a cool gadget cache beside the fire station, and not far from the actual cache is a tree that curves around and looks like a fire hose. So it's really cool. Another favorite is Damsels in Distress. It's a little castle that's set in an area where there was once a graphite mine, which closed down in 1919. So there's just the ruins of this mine. So it looks like a medieval setting with the moss growing over the foundations. So the whole setting there is really cool. It's a really popular cache. And the Lost Lodge Travel Bug Resort is a great destination for travel bugs. It has full amenities there in the resort. So. Then there's a few caches that have unique logs that I like. There's one that has a VHS tape as the log, and there's another one that has a 35 millimeter film canister, and there's a cache that has a traditional phone, a push button phone. So some of these things, the young kids, they don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Not to mention a dial telephone. They really don't know what those are.
We originally had a dial phone in the cache, and it went for a walk. So now it's a push button one, but still works.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I should make a rotary phone into a puzzle cache. And the younger generations will have no idea how to solve it.
For sure.
Difficulty 5 puzzle. Yeah.
You were talking earlier about how the community has reacted and embraced things. Doramore said here, I enjoyed some of the signs at some of the cache sites. Private property, geocachers welcome.
For sure.
So,
yeah. Joanne and I were referencing a few sort of inside jokes about a couple of the other caches that you didn't have on your list here. But again, so many great caches. There are some gadget caches that require some time to solve to get into the cache. So, one of the things is to be planning for that. None of them took hours, but some of them took a little while, and you had to.
It just depends on your mindset and the way you approach the puzzles. I've had cachers say, I spent 30 minutes trying to figure this out. And another cacher will come by and said, oh, well, that took me a minute, but it was, 5 minutes or less or whatever. What is really hard for one and overwhelming a 12-year-old to come by and, that's easy.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the other things that I thought were really great, though, is there's a few where the caches and Firefighters Kick Ash is definitely in this wheelhouse, but there are a few that were, I would call them like prop related caches. Like it's not super hard to find, but when you turn the corner or you come out on that part of the trail, all of a sudden like, oh my goodness, like what is this and how on earth does this stay here? Mm-hmm. Which is credit to the engagement with the community, Joanne, that you have been doing absolutely to do that. Because, I joked earlier about, eating turtles. Well, there's one that I believe is called turtle soup. And I'm not going to give too much away, but you come around the corner on the trail and you see this, you're like, are you kidding me? This is crazy.
So some of the caches are on private property. And so, the general public isn't walking by them. It's just geocachers that look for them. But the municipality is just filled with crown land. And there are trails that go through the crown land. So we put a lot of caches there just off of the trail. So, people going by on their ATVs or going for a hike don't necessarily see them, but the geocachers take those few extra steps into the bush and find them. Yeah. So we try not to make them hard to find. We want them to be fun to find. And as you say, most of them, you don't have to do a lot of searching. It's obvious when you get close by. It's like, wow, there it is.
Yeah. When when Laura and I hung out with you after we finished the GeoTour and we chatted about a few things. I think you mentioned that some of the geocaches were contributed or built by either community members or other geocachers from outside the region. Is that true?
Yes, that's for sure. We have one cache. It's a really well-built cache called I Seize the Light. Was made by our geocaching friend Murphster in the Peterborough area. And we have another cache that was made by a local carpenter. It's tiles. You've seen those little kids' toys where you have to move the tiles around to make a picture. Well, we have a big version of that. And that was made by a friend in the community. And there's a few others that were contributed to by other geocachers, that especially when we increased to the 150 caches, these geocachers had already been out and seen the 100 caches that we had, heard that we were going to increase and said, can I help? Can I contribute? And that was, yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it just brings more quality into the GeoTour.
Sure. Yeah, we have someone who's gifted with the metalworking, and he's made a couple caches that were just amazing, made out of metal. So.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we've been able to encourage some of the listeners to check out the GeoTour. I know at least one or two have already commented that they've gone to take a look at the GeoTour during the podcast, which is great. If you're listening to this, we'd encourage you to check it out and see if it's an adventure you want to put on your plans for the future. If somebody is planning to come and visit and complete the GeoTour and the GeoArt and the Adventure Labs and everything else in the area, where should they go, Joanne, to start planning their adventure?
Well, we do have a website, the geocachingcapitalofcanada.com, and there's information there about the GeoTour and about the GeoArt, and there's a tab for places to stay. From that website, you can also download a passport. I just happen to have, if you're doing the GeoTour, you want to get a passport so you can record all the code words. So that could be downloaded from the website. There's also a map there. If you like paper maps, we have a map of the region with the general location of the caches. So it gives you more of a visual.
I would definitely recommend printing out the passport and then protecting it with your life during your adventure.
and you can also message Tupper at any time if you have any further questions. Happy to help.
So can we just message Tupper and ask for all 150 codes?
No.
Oh.
No, not.
Well, I had to ask. You're so helpful.
But if Tupper's seen that you have been out caching and somehow forgot to grab the code at a particular cache, you don't have to drive, 10 kilometers back to get it. Send Tupper a message saying, well, I was there and I did this cache, and Tupper's usually pretty generous with the code words or help with getting into a cache. If you're like, I'm stuck, I can't figure out this combination, help, and Tupper's there.
Awesome. Joanne, on the topic of messaging Tupper, maybe there's one other geocache. When I recently released my video for our adventure there, and one of the things I highlighted, I'd like you to maybe speak about on the podcast as well. And one of the caches, if somebody chooses to write a letter or ideally send a postcard to Tupper, that their postcard can be featured in a cache. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, we have a cache, which is Tupper's mailbox, and the cache is hidden close by. And when Tupper gets mail, it goes into that cache. So we did have quite a bit of mail accumulated over the years, but last winter it all disappeared. So we had to start fresh. So anytime, if you'd like to send a postcard, you can send it very generally to Tupper, Geocaching Capital of Canada, Wilberforce, Ontario, K0L3C0, and it'll get get to Tupper's mailbox.
Wait, that's all you need to do? Everybody in
Sure.
Wilberforce knows Tupper.
Everybody does.
He's such a famous turtle.
He really is.
For sure. And it's such a great community.
It is, absolutely. One of the actually, this is probably a good thing to let people know. I think I pointed this out in my YouTube video as well. But one of the caches is time dependent. Not the night caches, which technically are also time dependent. But there's one that you have to read the description and plan ahead. It's one of the ones in Wilberforce.
Right.
But when we did that one, it wasn't busy, but it was open, and there was a handful of people in there, and they were having. You could just see them watching us, and they're all smirking to themselves, and just as we walk into the front door, and we're like, okay, there's a little consultation quietly between the two of us, and then me pointing and us walking. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think it just emphasized that community engagement, and it was just fun. Yeah,
for sure.
Nice. Joanne, I wanted to talk about the coins for a minute. If you've done this for 8 years, have the coins changed over time, or is it the same coin?
Nope. It's the same coin. We had it made when we increased to 150. So originally we just had the certificate program up to 100. So then 2017, when we went up to 150, we had a coin produced. So there's 2 coins in the community. There's one that is just a general Geocaching Capital of Canada coin, which you can purchase at local stores. And then there's the reward coin with 150. It features Tupper and 150, and you have to earn that one. And we still have plenty of coins.
And selfless or shameless self-promotion. If you want to see what the coin looks like, watch my YouTube video.
For sure.
Or go out and find all 150
or
caches.
Whatever's easier. If it's easier to go find 150 caches than sit through 15 minutes of me, which it probably is, do that. And then you get
I'm not going to say which is more enjoyable.
Oh, I think we all know,
We
Joanne.
appreciate
I think we all know.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We certainly appreciate it, and I think our listeners did as well.
Thank you. Well,
there was a question from Gas Station Tuna about the coin. Do you want to just bring that up? Yeah. So he's wondering, Joanne, how?
Yep, all of them.
Okay, so the question was for our listeners: how many caches to get the GeoCoin? All of them, or a certain percent? Who's playing around with the clicking? It's not me. My hands are here.
Okay,
Anyways.
I'll click one time. There we go.
And Joanne, you said all of them.
It is all of them. Yes.
Okay.
As I said, but you've got the certificate to, if you're only finding part of them up to 100. Yeah.
And the experience and the memories of finding as many as you can of these memorable, creative, fun geocaches in beautiful communities.
Yeah,
for sure. I like to see everyone find all 150. We had a couple come from Germany. They started their vacation in Toronto. They held a small event there, and someone told them about our GeoTour. So they came up to do the GeoTour. They had allotted a certain number of days, 3 or 4 days, and they found all but one.
Oh.
And they didn't message Tupper until they were leaving. It's like, so they didn't get the virtual. I just felt so bad for them. But
so close.
If they had sent a message while they were still here, they certainly would have gotten help and gotten the virtual reward. But I guess the experience was more important to them.
Awesome. And clearly they must have had a great experience. But lesson there for all of us to learn from this is, if you're doing the GeoTour and you're struggling with any of them, message Tupper. Just ask for help. And I'll share from my experience. There was a couple of times where we ran into challenges during doing the GeoTour, and we messaged Tupper, and Tupper was super duper responsive and helpful, to the point where we were starting to feel bad about messaging Tupper to do that. Okay, like we're waiting to the absolute last minute. Like we're just stuck on this one. I think one of them was the the one by the lake with the water. It's one of the, put the water into the cache and float the cache up. And
you happened to come when the grass was really long and you missed a vital component of the cache. Yes.
Yeah. But Tupper gave us a hint. He didn't tell us. It was a nudge, and it was enough of a nudge that a minute later, like, oh, for Pete's sake, there it is. But yeah, a tall grass gets you.
Sure.
Awesome. Good fun. Joanne, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Staying up late. It's very late for you.
Yes.
So thank you.
It's good. Thank you. I really had a good time being here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, thank you. And listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
Absolutely. We want to take a moment to thank our corporate Denali level sponsors. That would be Landsharks with the Z.ca, LANDSHARKZ.ca, the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online. And remember that they're shipping those online orders daily. And for absolutely amazing geocaching adventures in British Columbia, come and check out exploregoldcountry.com. And if you want absolutely amazing geocaching adventures in Ontario, check out geocaching capital of Canada.ca.
.com.
Is it .com? Sorry, .com. All right, there you go. Geocaching capital of Canada.com. Folks, we want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Landsharks, Gold Country Geotourism, Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, Cool Cow Cachers. Oh, that one I almost always trip over that one coming out of the mouth there. And Cachly, the geocaching app. If you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, well, head on over and click that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
Like Antaeus did.
And Genies.
And the Seabeck Tribe.
And CRS 98.
Trexer.
B. Pendragon.
Segehove.
The Camp Clan.
If you're a spilly drinker, you're going to have a wet coaster.
Korsgat.
Logwork.
Stay tuned for our show on the 24th when Gas Station Tuna will be our guest.
No way.
Way.
What about Peach of Washington?
Not on the 24th.
Okay.
But often in the chat. Broncos fan for life.
GSM. Damn Stu.
3 cats.
Subway Mark.
Our friend from HQ. Mountain Bike.
Ari 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Another
RAR 285. Yes.
RAR 285. Active in the chat tonight talking about the GeoTour. Dora Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Team Noltex.
GeoNav Pro.
Kid Vegas 19.
Ackerdoc.
Green Words.
Also busy away in the chat tonight.
Yeah.
UDAC.
M-Nerve.
JCar.
Our favorite kitchen appliance, the LG 9000.
Boomer 365.
Alarobrick.
Skyhawker.
Just finding our way.
Just Carlo.
Oh, it's hilarious. Those are one after the other tonight. That's funny. Loving it on Vancouver Island, BC Rock Crawler.
Kitty Quest.
Geocaches.
Another friend from HQ.
Yeah.
Flagman.
Wino Seattle.
Where was he? Limax.
Kev MacD.
And you talks to rocks. Folks, thank you so much. One more time, Joanne, where can people get a hold of you if they have any questions, or maybe they want to reach out and ask Tupper for some help before they leave for Germany?
Yeah, the best way would be to message Tupper through geocaching.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click on the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. If you didn't like the show, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you didn't, let us know what you want us to talk about, because we'll probably do it. In either case, you have to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a review. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. You can also call 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask us a question, or help us out with a hint on where to find a tot for one of these caches, any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and chat. This show's produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. This show's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2023 by Chris Umfenauer. Folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
the after show. Joanne, if you don't know what the after show is, this is a chance where we just talk about anything that the listeners want to talk about. And I think there's only one or two FATAS items we have, such as Komikino. It says tomorrow afternoon, I'll be posting the last of my caching in Japan videos.
Fun.
That's
Awesome.
a great kind of formula for a name. Caching in, and then name the place.
Yeah. Well, he's big there, apparently.
I think we're all big in Japan.
It's relative. That's been a great series. Komikino, thank you so much for the work you put into sharing the videos from your trip there. It's been really interesting to see your experiences and the people you were visiting with and hanging out with there. That was very cool.
Thank you so much. Now, Gas Station Tuna says, I have a few caches that are just placed for an event this weekend to help with the, excuse me, Wheel of Challenges challenge. Those 3 words, Joanne, you have to pronounce in that way. I don't know. It came right from HQ that said you have to pronounce them that way. So
Right.
looking forward to everybody experiencing them, he says.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. That's a great idea. Thank you. I'm sure from the community, the local geocaching community, Gas Station Tuna, for doing that. Like I said, Gas Station Tuna is going to be our guest on the 24th on our next. I think that's our next episode, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Looking at my calendar. Oh yeah. As I had drafted the early copy of the show notes and sent the. He's apologizing for being on the podcast.
Yep.
No,
Sorry.
no. Wait until
Apparently,
you've done
he's
the
Canadian
podcast.
too.
Wait till you've done the podcast and then apologize.
Okay.
No. I think we all met Gas Station Tuna at the 20th anniversary celebration in Seattle, right?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Lost Ken says a thank you to you, Joanne.
You're welcome. The best part of placing caches is hearing other people enjoy them.
Mhm.
You know, the logs saying they had a good time. That just makes it so worthwhile.
You know, that's a good point. And I think, you know, if I was going out somewhere and doing a power weekend and finding 150 caches, I don't know that I would be writing a unique log for every cache.
Mhm.
No, don't.
But for
If you
the
do-
geocaching capital of Canada, the fact of the matter was, like, as I looked at the names of the caches, as I was logging them, I'm like, oh yeah, like for everyone, a memory was coming back of like, oh yeah. So there's not like, I had no idea which one that was. Like everyone, you're like, oh yeah, that one where I did this, where this was our experience. So I think just the effort that, Joanne, that you guys have put into the GeoTour itself, by its nature, generates interesting and unique logs.
It does. And I like the copy and paste with one little line saying why this was special. Because when I'm reading, a couple hundred logs in the night, I don't mind.
You,
I don't mind
learn
doing-
where to scan
minding
to.
a copy and paste.
Yeah.
Although tonight I was reading some logs from someone who really likes to write these beautiful, long, 3-paragraph logs, unique to each cache. Like,
Wow.
it's nice.
If you find good ones, we typically do a geocache log of the week. We call it the glow.
Okay.
So send along some of your best logs and we'll read them out in the show. And then we
Okay.
can send Tupper a special sticker to put on his geocaching profile.
A digital souvenir for Tupper.
All right, will do.
All
Awesome.
right. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest. We're rooting for you.